Hey students, happy Wednesday. I miss you guys. I wanted to talk a little bit today about Julius Caesar. So bear with me as I'm new to this recording business. As you can see, I am using my phone to record my iPad. So I first want to look at Act 2, Scene 1, if you want to follow along. And we're going to look more closely at Brutus's lines and what he's saying. So Brutus says, "It must be by his death," referring to Caesar. "And for my part, I know no personal cause to spurn him, but for the general. He would be crowned. How that might change his nature, there is the question." Well, what Brutus means here is that although he has no cause, no personal cause to hurt Caesar, he's agreeing that Caesar must die. It must be by his death in line 10. He says he's doing it but for the general, meaning basically for the people of Rome. Brutus tries to manage this idea or to make this idea plausible by saying Caesar would be crowned and how that crowning might change his nature. So, although he has no proof that Caesar will change, Brutus suggests that sometimes people change because they're in a position of power. Look at this line number 18 or so. Okay? "And then I grant we put a sting in him, that at his will he may do danger with. The abuse of greatness is when it disjoins remorse from power." So sometimes people in political powers or whatever it might be, sometimes they become a little big-headed and believe that their power is making them above the law. And that's what Brutus says is motivating him to agree with Cassius and therefore consider taking Caesar down by taking away Caesar's life. But we can see Brutus is torn. We look in lines 20 through 25. "And to speak truth to Caesar, I have not known when his affection swayed more than his reason." Brutus is saying, I basically have never known when Caesar was anything but reasonable. But there's the problem. The word but, anytime someone says but, we know there's a problem. "But 'tis a common proof that lowliness is young ambition's ladder, whereto the climber turns his face. But when he once attains the utmost round, he then unto the ladder turns his back, looks into the clouds, scoring the base degrees by which he did ascend. So Caesar may." Here's the problem with Brutus's thought process or his logic. Yes, Caesar may become a tyrannical leader, and he may not. So should we just kill someone because they may become something bad? Even though Brutus says right here, "And to speak truth of Caesar, I have not known when he has been anything but reasonable." He says, but it's been known that when someone lowly climbs the ladder and finally gets to the top rung, they forget the people behind them. And instead of turning back to help those who have helped him get up to the top, power consumes the brain, and then he looks into the clouds and scorns those who are under him. And so Caesar may. So that is the problem. Caesar may become a bad leader, so let's kill him. So Brutus is trying to rationalize why he should get rid of Caesar, even though he realizes Caesar hasn't done anything, at least in Brutus's mind, to deserve this. Here is where we realize what we were told in Act 1, when Cassius says he's going to put some letters in Brutus's room, and make Brutus believe these letters have come from the people of Rome. So Cassius is manipulating his power, ironically, and he's fooling Brutus, who trusts him. So Brutus says, "The exhalations whizzing in the air give so much light that I may read by them." And he opens a letter and reads. And the letter reads, "Brutus, you sleep, awake and see yourself. Shall Rome, etc., speak, strike, redress? Brutus, you sleep, awake." So according to this letter, they're telling Brutus, wake up. What more do you need to see and hear and believe? Rome needs you. Wake up, Brutus. Keep in mind, Brutus comes from a long line of Romans who, some of his ancestors, helped to initiate the Republic. And so these letters are saying, if you're loyal to your family, Brutus, then you should also stand up for and destroy Caesar, who is going to take down Rome. And here we see, "My ancestors did from the streets of Rome. Speak, strike, redress. O Rome, I make thee promise, if the redress will follow, thou receivest the full petition at the hand of Brutus." So he's saying, if this is what Rome wants, then I make you a promise. I will do it. So a bit later, Lucius comes in, a servant of Brutus's, and he says, "Sir, March is wasted 15 days. If you remember back to Act 1, the soothsayer says, 'Beware the Ides of March' to Caesar. The Ides of March is the 15th of March. So this is the day that Caesar has been told by the soothsayer that he should be wary of. Remember, Caesar was not swayed, supposedly, by the soothsayer's words. He didn't want to look weak in front of the crowds. However, if we paid attention, he had just said to Mark Antony, "Antonius, when you run past my wife, please touch her because it's good luck." So we know Caesar believes in superstition. And while it was okay for him to want Mark Antony to run by and touch his wife during the race in the hopes that Calpurnia will have a baby, Caesar pretends like he is not bothered by the soothsayer's words when the soothsayer tells Caesar, "Beware the Ides of March." Unfortunately, Caesar really truly was afraid, but he could not act like it. He did not want to act weak in front of his people. So here Brutus is saying, "Go to the gate, somebody knocks." So now the conspirators are starting to come to Brutus's house because they all want to encourage Brutus to join their faction against Caesar. Why is Brutus so important? Well, because Brutus is Caesar's best friend. And as I have told you in class, some critics, some scholars even believe Brutus could have been Caesar's child. So, as you notice, the crowds loved Caesar at the beginning of the play. So they want to make sure the conspirators, Cassius and the other senators who are conspiring against Caesar, they want to make sure that Caesar's death should have happened. They want the crowds to believe that. And what's the best way to get the crowds to believe that killing Caesar was for the best of Rome? Well, having Caesar's best friend be part of the conspiracy to kill him. Because who would want to kill his best friend unless they had good reason? Look at George and Lenny from Of Mice and Men. George certainly would never have wanted to kill Lenny. But as Slim said, you had to, George, you just had to. They knew that Lenny was a danger to their community as a whole. And that's pretty much what Cassius and the other conspirators want the people of Rome to believe. So if they can get Brutus to join their faction against Caesar, then they've pretty much sealed the deal, and the Romans will believe Caesar deserved to die. Because at this point, they love Caesar.